We've designed the most consistently powerful next-generation console. And we built state-of-the-art platform technology to allow every developer to realize their full vision.
That quote has largely been panned because we were promised like powerful hardware. We were promised powerful systems. And the reality is a lot of those promises have not come to fruition in a meaningful manner.
Where are the games at?
Where are the games?
Where are the games?
It's dry. Yeah. Where are the games?
I kind of keep waiting for them to do their thing.
Here's the thing. I bet a lot of y'all thought they were talking about Xbox. No, they were talking about both of the companies. Because we'll have like a few games come out. Like Max is the PlayStation representative. And I believe it was Taylor with him there. She's probably covering off on Xbox. And a lot of people have felt let down by the game release cadence by both companies.
Don't see anything.
These are easily the most pointless upgrades I've ever experienced.
What is the point of buying a console if you can just make a PC?
If you're gonna have everything on PC, why not just buy a PC and abandon the console?
Where are the games? Where are the deadlines? Where are the projects? Where are the teases? Like, it feels weird that it's like,
why buy consoles?
That's the problem. Like, I watched this video for a minute before I did the reacts to it, and he hits the nail on the head about like what is going on with the console market. The console market has become sort of an old hat idea. Now, I'm not saying consoles should go away, but I do think a lot of people feel underwhelmed by their console purchase as of late. You have Nintendo, which is a super old console, and it's still pumping out great titles. We just got an announcement for Metroid Prime 4. We have a new Mario and Luigi. We have all these cool games. And what happened was, I think there was too much of a focus on fidelity and graphics and not enough focus on great gameplay.
Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set.
Yeah, like Kearney talking about how our ear how our ear is made and how the ear audio is going to be amazing with the new PlayStation Pulse headset. I got one of those PlayStation Pulse headsets. Yeah, I'm good. Anyway.
Something's happening with video game consoles. They've changed from machines people couldn't wait to get their hands on to machines people couldn't wait to forget. And after weeks of digging, I boiled down every problem the 9th generation has down to 3. So let's break them down, starting with the most obvious of them all. The games. You see, every console generation is measured.
His video production quality is so freaking good. This guy like makes really good videos. But I agree, like if you look at the 360 era, he's going to talk about the games and obviously like how the release cadence hasn't been great. At least that's where I think he's going. But there's also an oversaturation issue. If you look on Steam right now, you could just play tons of stuff. There are games that want you to dedicate most of your time to them, like Destiny. I would even say a game like Elden Ring. When Elden Ring or Grand Theft Auto comes out, that's where they want you spending your life. They don't want you playing other stuff.
By one thing,
it's why I like Game Pass, yeah.
The games. The 360 had Halo 3, the PlayStation 3 had Uncharted, and the Wii had the Wii Sports Tennis game that broke all of our TVs.
And they were all unique. Like, those are 3 pretty different games. You got a shooter in Halo, you got Uncharted, which is like action adventure, third person, and you have Wii Tennis, which is like a casual thing. They all sort of like tickle a different part of your brain in a really fun way. And I don't feel like we really get that these days.
But unlike the previous generations, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X technically have way more games than any other console in history. Every week a new indie game releases, there's backwards compatibility for almost any game that you can think of, and if God forbid those older games didn't play well, well then there's a pretty good chance it's been completely remade. So then why does this generation feel like it has nothing? How does that make any sense? Well, the answer...
Well, part of it is, yeah, somebody in chat said the problem is budgets 100%. Dead on. Budgets are a huge part of the problem. They are out of control. Budgets, vision. I heard somebody comparing game design to a business philosophy. Business has gotten its hands into it a bit too much, where, oh, we're going to have all these social media features. We're going to have, you know, integration with NFTs. We're going to have a microtransaction store. It's like, cool, but like, what are you making? What is the premise? What is the game? What is the loop that is going to keep the player engaged? Because I don't care about all that other nonsense. I don't care. But business people care. So everybody comes to the table, and they come to this table with this plan about all the stuff they're going to cram into their game. And people stop caring about the core design philosophies of games. I think that's why Larian and that's why Baldur's Gate was so widely celebrated, because they really got at the heart of what gamers want. And that's why it was so successful, right? The art has gone out the window, and the interest of investors has been put on a pedestal. And that is a massive problem for the games industry. And we're seeing a resurgence of the AA because of it. And I think the AA is going to become the AAA because of how bad it has gotten.
The answer starts getting more clear when we look at every hit this generation's had so far. There's a problem. Do you see it? Hold on, let me remove every game that was made primarily for the previous generation. Now let's remove every game that's considered a better playing experience on the PC. And last but not least, let's remove every remake or remaster of an existing game. The list
No way.
is dramatically smaller.
I appreciate that he did this for Survivor to give Xbox a little bit, right? I didn't even think about it that way. That's a really good point. I'm gonna move my camera down here.
Isn't it? I mean, if these games tell us anything, it's that there's something in the water at Insomniac and we got to protect them at all costs.
Yeah, and they had layoffs. They're like the number one I love Insomniac.
They love me.
But this generation's games are actually a bigger problem than you'd think when we compare them to the previous generations, specifically the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii generation. For context, the 7th generation of consoles objectively had worse development tools, worse hardware to build games on, less people with skills to build them, and less documentation to learn.
And everything was better. It was harder to get in. Maybe that's part of it. It was like harder to make games. So that meant you only got the best, most driven people making them. Now I can make a video game. Like, you can literally turn on Unreal, drop a character in there, get some assets from the store, and make a one-room shooter where things spawn. Like, I could do that in an evening. So how does that scale up, right? It's interesting to think about.
Learn from. I mean, these consoles released before social media was even a thing. Here's the games they released during the same amount of time as the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X.
If I get copyright flagged, this guy's not my friend anymore. Yeah, look at that. That's a copywritten song. I'm going to be very upset.
That's pretty wild, right? See, back then, every game was made solely for that generation of consoles without remakes, and you could forget about a PC port back then.
I really like
Mass
Mass
wasn't
Effect.
a thing. Because during that time, Steam is just getting started, Blizzard makes like one game every decade, and Microsoft is pushing the insanely buggy games for Windows Live.
Yeah, man, games had to be good and keep your interest for a set period of time until they could get the next one out. And now it's like 5 games are competing for my interest. Like, I haven't played Elden Ring enough to like satisfy the internet people who think I need to play it like thousands of hours to get it, right? And that's just one game. Like, I didn't play that much GTA Online, and GTA 5 is one of the biggest things. I don't play Fortnite anymore. I play a lot of Destiny. I like Destiny. I like that video game. I didn't for like a year, but right now it's real freaking good. So like, that's what I'm playing.
Look, these games technically aren't telling you the full story. While most of these games are critically acclaimed, it's what they did for the industry that made the 7th generation so special. For example,
Dead Rising was so unique and interesting. Like, it wasn't like amazing, but it was so fun to just run over the zombies and dumb.
War revolutionized third-person cover shooters,
Hell yeah, it
cooperative
did.
story, and the brown color palette that every game used for a lot longer than they should have.
Yeah. Gray.
Wii Sports revolutionized motion controls made accessible for a brand new casual audience. Technically, because of the Wii, anyone could play
I haven't
games
watched
now.
it yet,
Rest
so,
in peace
yeah.
to all the TVs out there.
How many did anybody out there actually break their TV? I think my Wiimote hit the TV one time, but like this is the only video I ever saw where somebody actually broke their TV. I don't know
And
how
back
common
then,
it actually
Call
was.
of Duty actually revolutionized FPS controls, multiplayer progression, and 60 frames per second as
And I would argue like it hasn't gotten much better since COD 4.
a staple of competitive multiplayer.
50,000 people used to live here.
Oh, I love Gears.
Now it's a ghost town.
But what's more insane is that the publishers that absolutely dominated
Now I know where
the
that meme
7th
comes from.
generation have completely bombed in this generation.
Next generation gaming!
Warner Brothers was on top of the world with Batman and Shadow of Mordor, but
Yeah, what is WB doing? What is WB doing these days? I'm lost.
then they release Suicide Squad, a game that nobody wanted.
How you feeling, Floyd? Ready to kick your ass?
Nobody. Ubisoft dominates with Assassin's Creed, but then launches their quadruple A game Skull and Bones to crickets. Like that.
I played an hour of Skull and Bones, and I'm like, this game sucks. That 1 hour, they call it like the gold standard or something like that. There's a name for like getting that intro to like the best possible quality. If your first hour of gameplay isn't fun, you will lose. And then like the negative sentiment about Skull and Bones, like I'm just like, I don't want to play this. I'm done. And I'm very fortunate that I get to try out these games. And I think one of the best recommendations I see, go watch a review, go watch multiple reviews, go watch a streamer play the game that you're interested in, and then make your purchasing decision. That's what I would do. Like if I didn't get codes and stuff through work. And that one just doesn't look fun, and it isn't fun. And like you just needed to make
Game came out 2 months
Assassin's
ago
Creed Black
and
Flag.
no one's talking about it. It's already probably half off. Activision
It is.
revolutionized multiplayer gaming with Call of Duty, a grounded military game, but now this is Call of Duty.
You could be the king, but watch the
Well, I would argue Call of Duty has lost its special feeling, for lack of a better term, but it makes them a lot of money. It makes a lot of money. Hey, Matthew, good to see you.
queen conquer.
Why is Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty? The war game.
Money!
Also, Microsoft, you know, the single
right.
biggest video game publisher in the world right now? Well, they launched Redfall completely broken, Starfield completely empty, Lionhead Studios completely fired, laid off 4 more companies during the making of this video,
You what?
and released 3 buggy, incomplete Halo games in a row. And they all hurt. Every single one of them hurt me. Quite significantly. So here's the $1 million question.
Yeah, MCC got better, but it took a long time to get better, right? And that's the unfortunate truth about the situation. Yeah. MCC got better, but like we have to stop being accepting of these day one patches, which I particularly don't like. Your games should be finished. They shouldn't need a day one patch. That's my super hot take. If you need to patch your game on the first day because it's so bad that it doesn't work, you messed up. And if you need to do it on month 2 to get the game in a playable state, you messed up. Like, whatever you launch with should be a complete functional game that works. Don't put it out until you have that. You need that as your base, and then you can improve from there.
Question, if not built.
Oh, it is the whole Mac City. It is the whole industry. You're right. It's a problem.
What the heck is happening with video games? Well, you see, the simple answer that gains a lot of social credit these days is making games is hard.
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 Now, using my personal experience in the software development field, I've been doing it for like 10 years, I can't argue that the process is difficult. But I can argue that these companies seem to have no idea what people actually want to play.
Yep. Of course, making games is hard. It's a miracle that games come out. Like, we all know that. But after I've spent $70 on your product, if it doesn't work or it's bad, I'm going to be mad. And I don't understand why that's hard for them to understand. The bread maker down the street also works hard. You got to get up at like 3 a.m. to have the dough rise and make your loaf of bread every freaking day. And you know what? If you overproof it and the bread is like a brick, you're not going to sell any bread. I imagine game design is the same thing, but it's over 7 years. And it's making art, and it's like, I missed your question. I'd be happy to think about it. But like, it's just like frustrating that, oh, it's really hard. Okay. Like, yeah, we know it's hard, but the game doesn't work. So why'd you put it out and ask me for $70? And why do you not understand why that would be upsetting to the consumer? That's it. Like,
and when we look at the games through that lens, we can start to see why we're getting so many remakes of games that were so successful before, so many live service Destiny or Fortnite clones, and why so many games are made for the previous generation with a higher install base first instead of the new consoles we spent $600 of our hard-earned Canadian money on.
If you made a game over 7 years, talking about the cross-generational thing, we're never going to get through this video, just my thought. He's just like hitting all the receptors in my brain. All 4 of them. If you made a video game, would you rather release that video game to a potential of 20 million people purchasing it? Granted, you get like a very small percentage of those people will actually purchase your product because there's cannibalization. Or would you rather release that product to a potential of 300 million customers? The answer is obvious. Obviously, you want to release it to 300 million potential customers. Anyway, continuing on. There's some nonsense going on in chat. You guys got to be nice to each other.
They weren't cheap, guys. Maybe we start building for them. Just throwing that out there. Now, it might be because I love video games or because I'm Canadian and thus genetically predisposed to helping people come back stronger. That's that Zenkai in me, baby. So video game companies, here's some feedback that I'll give you free of charge. Ditch these consoles. No one thought the Xbox One was going to make it 2 years, let alone 11. Just take it out back to the farm, make it look at the sunset, do what you need to do. We're all on the same page. No one's going to be there and going to be like,
no, please, no, not the Xbox One and PS4. No, I love them so much.
Bring them to the farm. You see, it's time to make games that people actually want. We're talking a non-live service Batman game, an Assassin's Creed Black Flag 2, an actually good Halo game.
Oh, he's so right. They're not going to do that. You know why? Because they don't want money. They want all of your money. They want all of it. They want you to play nothing but Destiny and give you that $100. And they want you living in their worlds. Phil Spencer even said, oh, we don't really worry about you spending the $70. We want you to live in these games. Because if you live in these games, we can charge you $20 for a skin. We can charge you for that map pack that you've been interested in. We can get you for that cool gun skin in the game that you're not going to play in 2 years. That's why Destin has said, stop buying microtransactions. That's why retention metrics is so important.
He's fun. I like him.
Or just look at what's popular in the mod scene and you'll get a hit. It's actually surprising how little companies do this. I mean, it worked for Dota, it worked for Team Fortress 2, it worked for Battle Royale, it worked for Counter-Strike, and all the gaming companies are like, we should make a Fortnite or a Destiny clone. Suicide Squad. Why?
Money!
But unfortunately, the lack of next generation games is just the first problem, because these consoles make playing games kind of difficult.
Dude, how is my timing that bad?
No way. Did he really react like that?
So let's say you get a brand new console. Here's a simple question for you. What should it do? It sounds simple enough, right? It should play video games, of course. But there's actually something else that I'm sure you'll remember after this.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Now, if you didn't play the GameCube, then that just didn't work. But if you did, it's just one example of the magical experience a console can actually give players.
But it was such a different time. We're never going to get that time back. It was such an amazing time in gaming history. The 360, the GameCube, the Xbox One, we will never, ever, ever get that back. And I do think people need to accept that. We're never going to have those type of moments ever again. We just won't. It's gone. Technology has moved on. And now it's about like playing on your tablet or on your phone. And yeah.
And in every one of your favorite consoles, you'll find a similar experience when you play it for the first time.
Ugh, never gonna get this again.
But
It's just not gonna happen.
Xbox Series X? Oh, it's just an Xbox One, but I guess it's faster now. 600 Canadian dollars faster, I guess. And I guess my $600 wasn't enough to cover the ads either.
Hey, Destin, why did you start playing on PC? That's why. There's no, like, if I can literally play everything on PC, everything, including PlayStation games, why do I need to be there like the second they come out? There's too many games on the market. Like, it's just not exciting
fairness, when
like
you
it
boot
used
the
to be.
PlayStation 5, Sony says, hold my beer.
Oh yeah, the first time, it's cool. I forgot about this.
God, that was like every single
was cool.
PlayStation merged into one super PlayStation, and I loved every second of it. But look what happens when I pop in an extremely expensive 90 Canadian dollar next generation physical game from this incredibly sad and empty plastic box into each console. Yeah, the game needs to install gigabytes of data or download larger and larger
It's not even on the
patches
disc,
before
y'all.
you can even get a chance to play. So then you think to yourself, well, okay, I guess while I wait the mildly frustrating 30 minutes for this game.
Don't buy discs. This is why I don't buy discs, because you're just downloading it anyway. So you don't even really own anything on the disc. There's no game preservation anymore. So owning that disc does nothing.
To be ready, I can just, play one of the digital games that I already own. But then you find out that when you do that, the network speeds of your consoles are dragged into the frozen depths of HE double hockey sticks. So then you think,
He's so Canadian.
Okay, all right. I'll just play another game today and take the hit on the network speed so I can play the new 90 Canadian dollar next generation physical game from this empty plastic box tomorrow. But then the game that you decide to play also has a 60 gig update, because of course it does. So at this point, you're basically dead inside. But because you're desperate to play anything during the 2 hours of time you have left before you have to go to sleep.
I'm very thankful that there is the pre-install option now, so that you can go day one, unless they have that day one patch, of course.
To your corporate soul-sucking 9-to-5 job, you decide to play the most depressing game of Russian roulette to see which of the games you own doesn't need a 200 gig update, until you almost assuredly give up and decide to watch someone else play games on YouTube or Twitch instead. And if that's your case, hello and welcome to the channel, okay? Now, at first...
Whoa! Bonus points if you're watching this in farming content. Did he just call me out?
Decide to watch someone else play games on YouTube or Twitch instead. And if that's your case, hello and welcome to the channel. Okay.
Bonus points if you're watching this through a streamer farming content. Ayo! He's self-aware. I did ask him if I could do a reacts to his video. He wanted to do a collab or something. I was like, I don't really know what we could do, but maybe. do you mind if I react to one of your videos? And he said, yeah, that's fine. So that's why we're watching it today.
Now, at first glance, it seems like the console experience is objectively worse than those that came before. But if you're
seems like a cool guy,
like I was, then don't worry, because
well,
I
maybe
decided
I'll
to
do it.
bust out my older consoles to put this to the test. So, for the
Older
Xbox
consoles are
Series
great.
X, I found my original Xbox from over 20 years ago. The idea is simple. On the original Xbox, I'm going to try to play Halo Combat Evolved, a 20-year-old game. Then on the Series
just
X,
works.
I'll try to play Halo Infinite to see which console lets me play the game
Oh,
first.
wow. Loading data. Yeah, and you got to remember, he has all the updates and everything installed.
Well, that's depressing, but you might not be convinced. So I repeated this same exact test with the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 2. On the PS2, I'm going to play Ratchet & Clank Going Commando. And on the PlayStation 5,
I think it's a little faster on PlayStation 5.
So this test was really interesting because even with 4K graphics, Insomniac somehow loaded Ratchet on the PS5 in almost half the time. But unfortunately, what you don't know is both of these consoles needed their games to be pre-installed ahead of time. Just so they could compete. Now remember, each of these consoles is playing a game that's pushing their hardware to the limit, but only the previous generations actually let me play the games immediately, and I don't even want to imagine what would happen if these newer consoles weren't connected to the internet. Like, these things have
link to
way
them on the
more
videos
power,
later.
they have way faster hard drive speeds, and yet I can just play games faster over there. Because, you see, in the 9th generation, the games are worse, the play...
Yeah, the experience is bad. Just across the board, like, yeah, man. I think stop with the guys, like, you're parroting. When you say stuff like Clay's calling out right now, you're just parroting. Don't do that. Just convey your idea a little bit stronger. Like, elaborate. But I agree with him. There's a lot of problems with games now.
Experience is worse, and in the Xbox Series X's case, it barely tries to do anything to trigger any form of nostalgia. I mean, who's launching the Xbox Series X?
This is
Zenkai
Goose.
Oh man, the Jurassic World Dominion ad on the front dashboard that I paid 600 Canadian dollars for, and his subscription to Game Pass and Xbox Live. That's when gaming truly peaked. Ah, yeah, the nostalgia.
So, here's the question. If the modern gaming
I played a little bit on the stream
down to a list of games that are slightly better versions of the previous generation's games that constantly require downloading and or updating, then why not just play games on the PC where the games look and run so much better and I can actually do something else while I wait for my game to download? The truth is, most people would.
I absolutely agree with him. Like, man, McCadley was there. He's over on Twitch watching, but long story short, I had a moment where I went from console to PC. Destiny was announced as coming to PC, and I learned to play PUBG on keyboard and mouse. PUBG was my, like, hazing ritual to learn keyboard and mouse controls, and I still do it wrong. So, like, you know the home keys, ASDF, JKL:, I use those for my gaming. And I think a lot of people do, because I've noticed a lot of games have started using Alt for crouch or C, or they use Alt instead of Control. And I would have to change that in all of my settings. I also don't use the 2 key. I use 1, 3, 4, 5 often. So PUBG was my hazing into PC gaming. And, like, I'm still not great at it. I'm still whatever. But I prefer it on keyboard and mouse. But the glory of it all is you can literally just use a controller. This is the Xbox, like, plug in a controller and it works. You're good to go.
Wouldn't, which is exactly why we're seeing a dramatic surge in the popularity for PC gaming instead of console gaming that was traditionally always the place to play games first. But there's actually one more reason why people are moving to PC away from the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and it has to do with the way that these consoles treat people. You see, when it comes to video game consoles, there's actually 2 different eras of communication. The offline era, where you actually had to visit
Thanks,
your
man.
friends, hang out, bring over a giant CRT TV. And the online era, where you have friends lists, parties,
Yeah.
and wonderful messages awaiting you.
Every single person who watches your videos
Yeah.
are fucking stupid.
I'm actually nostalgic.
Yeah, so like when they started the online implementation into our games and into our consoles and such, why was it better then? Like, granted, the online toxicity was very bad at that time. It was like terrible. How come it's worse now? How come it's worse?
Nostalgic for it. But somehow the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 online community feels like an absolute ghost town where there's technically millions of people playing, but no one ever talks. Y'all feeling a good sense of community?
Bravo is off.
Taking these zones, look closer to your fellow man, fellow Spartan.
Your team.
I love it. So,
No one
let's
talks
go
to
back
each other.
2007 to see just what the heck happened. Okay, it's 2007, and for some reason we talk like this. Broken, weird, Canadian, British accent. But that's just what 2007 was like. So, you want to play Halo 3 with
Is he
your
British?
friends and
I
your
don't get the joke.
360 hasn't red ringed. What are you to do? Well, first you need a microphone to communicate, and thankfully Microsoft graciously includes
Yeah, you know, it was sort of new and you had to figure it out. Even in the original Xbox era, like he's talking 360 era, you could get Rainbow Six 3 on the Xbox and it came with a headset and you could just plug the headset right into your controller. And that's how I did it. Wolf? Oh, yeah? Is that why they don't? I don't know. Clay's my only mod.
It's a
He's
pretty
the only one I
decent
trust
quality
to mod
for
the
the
channel.
time with your Xbox 360. That means that anyone and everyone who has a 360 can communicate online right out the gate. So how do we go about communicating? Well, it is 2007, so communication software is, I'll be blunt, it's terrible. Skype is probably the best out there, but
Oh
us
God,
Canadians,
Skype.
we were using
No, it was
MSN
it was
Messenger.
Vent. Thanks, Stay Weird. Appreciate you hanging out.
Fortunately, we're in luck because sure, the communication software may have been total garbage.
Yeah. Skype in call.
But the software in these consoles were actually magnificent.
Hey, McCadley, good to see you.
You see, it had friends lists, a private party system that worked across any game, and like I mentioned before, some of the most wonderful voice messages you could have ever hoped for.
If I ever see you, I'm gonna fucking your face wide open, yeah?
Like I said, 2007 was a different time. But what about the game itself? How did we communicate with the others? You see, by default, Halo and every other multiplayer game let anyone with a microphone communicate openly. Lobbies were active, parties were well indicated on screen with an icon, and proximity chat was always turned on by default.
You don't need communication.
That's how you win.
Oh,
You don't need communication.
Mind blowing.
yeah. Honestly, like the fact that I think legally it has to be off. You have to opt into it. It was not great. It was very, very bad. And people used to send hate messages. Like I still get nasty messages on D2 when I jump into team chat. I posted one on Twitter last night. I was like, just don't be like this. Somebody was like, oh, you're just trying to get a carry in trials. I solo queue in trials and I went to the Lighthouse last week. Solo queuing. So like I have good games and bad like anybody else. But it's still like there. There's still remnants of it there. But it was way worse at this point.
With could be spoken to just like if we were playing sports in person. It was truly a community. But now let us forward back to the present day to see what the new consoles can do.
Yeah, I use chat all the time.
So it's 2024 and the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X have a few small differences. Despite being more expensive, the consoles no longer come with microphones.
Next generation gaming.
That's not true. That's not true. The PlayStation 5, that is not true. The PlayStation 5 comes with the, oh no, that was the PlayStation 4. He's right. The PlayStation 4 came with that absolutely terrible microphone attachment. Isn't the mic built into the controller though? I think he might be wrong on the PS5, but correct me if he's correct.
Sony technically provides one
Yeah,
embedded in the
okay.
controller itself.
He's
fair,
good.
But unless you play like a complete psychopath,
Hello?
it's probably not going to gain mass adoption.
Isn't it great that we can just talk right through this controller's
If I ever see you, I'm gonna
You don't do that. That's weird. Next comes the communication software, and it's pretty much the same as before. But while this sounds great on paper, it's actually pretty bad given that it's been over 15 years. You see, companies like Discord have streamlined the way players communicate,
He covered
the
it.
consoles really haven't
We're
tried
both
to keep
right.
up. The only innovation I could think of was that the consoles did technically add Discord integration, but in fairness, using Discord on a PC or a phone still feels infinitely better than the watered down version we get on the Xbox Series X or PlayStation.
I think what he's getting at is consoles have basically become locked PCs. Consoles are like okay, but they're like a worse version of a PC, for a lack of a better term. You have a proprietary operating system. You have all these ads being thrown at you. Like the experience just isn't great. And yeah, you have some game, like, so there's not a ton of game exclusives. The experience of playing a game sucks. Like you have to wait hours for it to install, or you have to pre-install. You have to like plan your life around getting the game installed on the console. And the experience hasn't evolved in a meaningful, positive way. Or you could just buy a PC. And if you're versed in PC, like, yeah, you still have to deal with drivers and updates and stuff, but like once you have it set up, you're kind of good. Sometimes you need to deal with a problem, but most of the time it's fine. So
PlayStation 5. Like I just use my phone.
Yep.
Or you know what I'd probably do is I just go on the PC instead. But okay, what about the games? How are they handling communication 15 years later? Well, let's use Halo again as an example to showcase the 15 years of innovation. And the reason I use Halo is because, quite frankly, Halo 2 and Halo 3 were revolutionary for really promoting communication within games. Each of these games kind of pushed things forward. Proximity chat, pre- and post-game lobbies that all kind of stemmed from the Halos.
It was rough.
He's like, dude, it's like 5 a.m. where you are. Go to sleep. And I just replied with Halo 3.
It no longer has pre- and post-game lobbies and hasn't for over a decade. It no longer has proximity chat. It does, however, support text chat between console and PC crossplay. So that's cool.
I type all the time in chat. I'm a chat typer.
Written or spoken communication with the enemy team entirely. And unfortunately, every game seems to have seen that and decided that rather than figure out a system that works for different communication styles, yeah, it's just easier to block everything completely so no one gets hurt.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
It's as if you played a game of basketball outside, but no one was allowed to talk to each other, and the only way you could talk to your team was to stop, pick up your phone, and then text them before someone hits you in the face with a basketball. And that sounds like a weird analogy, but it's like...
No, you know, yeah, I didn't even think about this. I think this is really, really interesting. Long story short, he's really hitting on something important here. The fact that it's so difficult to communicate with your teammates in most games, it's not good. Like, would I rather have a world where we could all communicate with each other and then I choose who I don't want to communicate with anymore? Abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely. But right now it's, you literally can't talk to anybody. And you have to make the decision to initiate the conversation, and then they have to accept. Like, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess right now. And it really hurts the overall experience, especially when all these games are online. I think Destiny is a pretty good example of allowing you to expose yourself to that. And I do, but it might be the only one that handles it well.
Legitimately true. Sure, I guess technically no one has a chance for harassment in that case.
What did you say, punk?
But it kind of loses a lot of the humanity in the process.
He's right.
Look, I love video game consoles, their reveals, their launches, and what they do for the industry.
Some form of connectivity is called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360, that's your message?
Each one defined a specific...
The worst thing anybody ever said at a
part
console
of my
launch.
life, and I'm pretty sure it did for you guys too. But the honest truth is that the 9th generation consoles are just overpriced, poor gaming experiences where the games are held back by less capable machines, corporate greed, and a censored online environment in a world where if I spend a couple extra $100, I get all of that and more on a PC. The market is basically being forced to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid if these problems continue, video game consoles we know and love will die slowly in a wasteland as nothing but a memory.
That's good, Frost. The problem is most people have moved on.
I don't think they have to. Because the magic of what made video game consoles so special to everyone never truly left. It's always been
PC's growing
just waiting
100%.
for someone.
And we still get those reactions sometimes, like during Christmas.
To bring back games that aren't afraid to push the industry forward.
I am your shield. I am your sword.
To bring back experiences we'll never forget.
Yeah,
And to put players first as a community and
Yes.
play it.
Yeah, like why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to do that? It feels like putting the player first is an afterthought. Is this the best experience for players? Or is this the best way for us to get the highest profit margin? And that's the constant push and pull and question that I think is wrestled with. And honestly, I think for a long time, it has slipped more and more to the best business decision and not the best gameplay design decision. I've really been enjoying channels that sort of tackle this topic. I think Pirate Software does a fantastic job of sort of having that conversation about the business aspect versus the gameplay aspect of designing a product. And I'm glad he brought it up in this video. Play console, play PC, play wherever you want, but there's no denying that the business necessity of game design has created many games that are worse off for it. Sure, we get the greats every once in a while, but too many of them are business first, gameplay second. And that's a bummer.
Midnight. Am I here?
If you haven't left yet, I would advise that you sprint.
We're never going to get this back. It's gone. It's never going to come back. Would I love this to come back? Absolutely. It's not going to be the same. It just won't be because the world isn't the same.
And it's on.
Tech, ways to deliver assets, like the technology has just changed how things are going to be delivered and the type of experiences people want. They want ease of access. So going to a physical location to get a thing and bring it home is going to be less and less prevalent. And that's just the truth. Like I'm not saying like that's what I want. It's just the truth of where we're at right now. And that's how I see it.
Like I wasn't before, but like seeing this.
You would like get chills.
I hope you enjoyed the video. You're beautiful, you're goose-tastic, and as always, keep it cute. Hey, can anyone hear me?
Stop talking through the controller. You're an absolute psychopath, and I despise you.
All right. My son wants to go play, so I'm going to go play with my son. But this is Zenkai Goose, and it's a really, really great video. I'm not saying everybody's going with PC. A lot of people are going to go with their phones, but maybe that'll be one of the things I'll be wrong about. Time will tell. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to go play with my son. He wants to hang out, so that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my day. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell if you're not already subscribed. If you are already subscribed, hit that like button. If you would like to become a member, you can do so by clicking the join button right down there. A huge shout out to all the members on the channel. I had a really great stream. Chat, you were wonderful today. Thank you for hanging out live. If you're watching this in VOD form, I do greatly appreciate you. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.